Yeah, yeah. All right. Wow.
All right.
You ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
You
Got
know
it.
what? Let's just roll with it because
Yeah.
I think I'm logged in on the wrong side, so I don't have access to the
To the intro music.
intro music. Hold on one sec. Hold on.
Okay. Yep. Yep. Oh,
Gentlemen.
look what we have here, man.
What's going on, man?
Nice of you to join us.
Yeah, what can I say? What can I say here on vacation, sort of down here in Florida? You see, my setup is a little bit different.
Okay.
You had this planned all along.
No, I had nothing planned, man. No, seriously. Like I just finished work. I said, you know what? Let me see if I could jump on, and I jumped on right there at the minute line.
For sure.
Bro, we need the intro music to come
Yeah,
in.
you could cue the intro music. I'm in
Oh
the
yeah,
wrong-
let's do this. Let's do this thing, man. Let's do this thing.
Oh god. This is hilarious.
Yo, that music is fire.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
Test 1, 2. You guys can hear me?
oh, loud and
Yeah.
clear.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Whew.
What up, Corey? Had to say what's up to my guy real quick.
Yeah,
He
man.
hopped on to watch us.
I appreciate you coming through, Corey.
Appreciate
Yo,
it.
so I found out today, because I'm down here in Florida for my niece's graduation, right? So a childhood friend, really like a big sister. She's been watching all of our stuff all along, right? And not been engaging, but watching. So I kind of want to shout out to Natasha and say thank you for watching our program, our podcast, and everything like that. So it's been pretty cool to see kind of the impact that we've been having, and hearing that people are watching and engaging, and learning more about destigmatizing mental health, right? So this is all good stuff.
Yeah, shout out Natasha.
Shout out
Appreciate the love.
Natasha. Shout out to all the silent listeners and viewers who watch but don't necessarily comment. We appreciate y'all's support. Yeah, that's great. That is awesome. That's a great story.
Mm-hmm.
So did we? I know I came in late, right? Because we wasn't really supposed to be here. Did we drop the intro? I mean, I know I just dropped the intro music, but did we open up anything?
We haven't
just
lit it
did
up yet. We were having some technical
welcome.
so.
Yeah, we just did the welcome. So mission statement, social media. That's it, and then we could just jump right into a heat check.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
So for you guys who are already out there, we thank you guys for engaging with us. We just said that, right? But we can't say that enough for saying thank you for joining us on this live. We know it's late, but we know that you have other things you could be doing. But thank you for joining us here on our Breathe Easy podcast, right? Where we believe that by having these kind of conversations, right, we can have culturally sensitive conversations that help us support destigmatizing mental health, right? And if we can destigmatize mental health, then people can get the necessary help that they need. That means that we can stop suicide, or we can reduce the suicide rate. We can certainly have an impact on the psychological well-being of our community, and certainly, we can keep families together, right? When we don't talk about things, certainly things fester and things don't get to resolution. But if we can destigmatize the mental health and making sure that people can get the resolution that they need, we can heal families. So those are the three things that we really like to work on as we have these conversations on our podcast. So thank you again for joining us. If you haven't already done so, go ahead and like our page on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube. This helps our mission on destigmatizing mental health. Without you, we are not able to really push our mission as far reaching as we have ambitions to do so. So go ahead and to those platforms, like our page, Breathe Easy Media, at Breathe Easy Media, Instagram, at Breathe Easy Media on Facebook, and you can find us Breathe Easy Media on YouTube. We try to be consistent with that. Like the page, follow the page, share it with everyone that you know, so that we can continue our work on destigmatizing mental health.
Ralph, I'm smiling because you got that intro down.
I practiced once or twice.
Tonight would have been like, "What's up, y'all? I'm Chris. I'm your co-host, Breathe Easy Podcast. Cal is here.
Cal is here. Let's go into heat check and disclaimer. But like, yeah, glad to have you on, Ralph.
Cheers, gents. Cheers.
So, yeah, let's go ahead and do the heat check, and then we'll get into the disclaimer, and then the main topic of the evening, which is cancel culture. So heat check, as you all know, we like to check in on each other, see how we're doing. On a scale of 1 to 10, we rate 3 different things. We rate family, we rate business and work, and then we rate your mental state. So who wants to kick it off this evening?
I'll go ahead, man, since I've been talking up a storm already. Yeah, so family put us at a 9. Down here in Florida, again, my niece's graduation, high school graduation. So excited for her and all the ambitions that she has. So got to see family. I haven't seen in a long time, certainly with the pandemic that has prevented a lot of that. So it was great to see everyone and engage, have a good time, have fun. The kids to see everyone too. So certainly a 9 there. Why is it not a 10, Ralph? Well, because I just didn't give it a 10. Business wise, work, good. It's cool that you can work from anywhere. So, working here in Florida, we have a pool out back in the Airbnb that we got, which is really cool. So the kids can go to the pool, and I can sit outside and just enjoy the Florida weather, except I've been having horrible weather here in Florida. It's been raining since we got here. So that kind of sucks. And then mental state, I'll say that I'm a 9 there as well, feeling really good. We're just getting out of a different environment and into a new environment where, have a similar routine, but still it's different. So therefore, it gives me a different perspective on things. So that's mine.
All right, I'll go next. So for me, family is a 9. Kids are in camp right now. They're having a blast. It's a sports camp, so every week they're switching up and doing something different. They're really enjoying that. Julie and I have both been working from home, so been getting to spend a lot of time together in between meetings and stuff like that. So I'd say family's a solid 9 right now. Work 7, steady, not too much going on, not too little. Pretty much the same thing day after day. So I'd rate that a 7. And then my mental state is good right now. I'd say my mental state is I'm going to give it an 8. I don't want to get too, overly joyous. But I would say I'm, steady in that area as well.
Yeah. Cool stuff, man. I think for me right now, how I feel with family's at 8. Right now in the process of my sister, she has a baby on the way, so she's planning a party for 4th of July. So it was good to talk to her. She's like super excited about that. Business is a 10. super excited about that. You know, anybody who's been in a sales role, the earlier you could hit your number, the better, right? Because, you know, it's funny, like you hit your number early and the month ain't, the quarter ain't even done. It's like, you know, some rookies, they'd be like, oh, okay, well, I could just take off the rest of the month or something. But like a vet like me know that, like, hey, you're only good as your last quarter, right? So you just gotta get ready for the next. And it's a huge celebration for me because, like, you know, you tune into the last couple episodes, there's been some struggle. There's been some real shit going on, you know, mentally and everything. But just to like see the end result is like, after a while, I was like, wait a minute, I've been doing all this work. And then like, boom, not only that I hit what I needed to hit, I went beyond. So really, really pumped about that. And then, you know, mentally, I feel like I'm at a 9 right now. I feel like a bunch of clouds just left last week and the weeks before. And I have a sense of clarity to where I have to do and where I have to go. So really excited to hear, you know, what y'all have to share as far as like how y'all feeling mentally. I feel like we deserve it. You know, we're some hardworking people. And yeah, ready to dive into this topic, man, because it's you know, it's funny, Ralph, because Chris and I, when we went live yesterday, we was given like a, you know, we was kind of preparing people for what we were about to talk to people about today. And we were saying like, dude, imagine if social media was around when we were growing up, you know, how much like, I'm gonna save it for the main topic, man. But it's like, you know what? I'm excited that we could hop on this to talk about, you know, this topic, because it's like it's what everybody's, you know, most people talking about this, right? So with that, I'm gonna just are we doing trending topics, or we're gonna jump into the disclaimer?
I think let's go into, well, my view, let's go into disclaimer and let's chop it up.
This content is not intended to be a substitute for professional advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your mental health professional or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding your condition. Never disregard professional advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have read or heard from our podcast. If you are in a crisis or you think you may have an emergency, call your doctor or 911 immediately. If you're having suicidal thoughts, call 1-800-273-TALK to talk to a skilled, trained counselor at a crisis center in your area at any time. National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. If you are located outside of the United States, call your local emergency line immediately. Breathe Easy Media is not a direct service organization. Breathe Easy Media does not recommend or endorse any clinician, counselors, psychiatrists, social workers, physicians, products, procedures, opinions, or other information that may be mentioned on our podcast. Reliance on any information provided by Breathe Easy Media hosts, Breathe Easy Media guests, or others appearing on the Breathe Easy Media platform is solely at your own risk. So, Ralph, I haven't remembered it yet, but I'm going to get it down, like, you know? give it like 5 more episodes.
Don't worry, Cal. When you were out that one episode and I did it, man, I was like, man, this is a mouthful, man.
Right? Oh my God! The more and more you say it, it's just like, whew, all right. Well,
you gotta figure out how to streamline it, still keep all of the richness of that, and certainly the resources for the folks, and then figure out how we can streamline it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but that was rough when I did that one time. Cancel culture, man. Woo-wee! What a topic for us today.
Yeah, this could go a lot of different ways. I definitely have some thoughts on this, some opinions on it. So yeah, let's kick it off.
Oh, well, kick it off, Chris. You got some thoughts and opinions? Let's hear it.
So cancel culture, right? I wanted to start it off by talking about, do you all think it's an infringement on free speech? Right? And how did we get to this place as far as, you know, being in a cancel culture? Is it the growth of social media? Is it, you know, people are fed up and have finally had enough? And is it effective is the other thing. Or is it kind of just a flash in the pan, someone's canceled in the moment and then they bounce back, which all my research seems to indicate. There's no long-lasting effect for most of these people. I won't say all, but a lot of these people who have been canceled, celebrities, they seem to bounce back in one form or another.
When I first came to hear or understand or certainly appreciate in this context of cancel culture, it was I don't even know if this kind of falls into cancel culture, but I'll say the Harvey Weinstein incident. I don't know if that's the right term. Harvey Weinstein event, right? Where that was categorized as the Me Too movement, but certainly the voice of the victims and the social media allowing those victims' voice to be heard broader than it has been any time in the past, supported in this context the right thing to happen, right? And if not for, you asked a question about social media, my viewpoint, if not for social media, and if not for the strength of the women, the victims, then that predator, if I would have continued to perpetuate his will over these women to get what he wants, and by asserting his power and his influence over the market. So what I see in that context of cancel culture is that through social media, through the gathering of like minds, is that those in power and have power are not no longer, but certainly have lessened their ability to kind of go unchecked, right? Now we got more checks and balances than we had in the past, and I think certainly in that context of cancel culture, I think that's certainly the right thing, right? Now you can just do what you want, and because you have power, influence, money, that you can continue to do what you want unchecked.
So I want to start with a definition, right? So cancel culture, according to dictionary.com, right, refers to the popular practice of withdrawing support for canceling public figures and companies after they have done or said something considered objectionable or offensive. Generally discussed as being performed on social media in the form of group shaming. And when you say check, right, Ralph, I feel like there's two different parts that get confusing with cancel culture. Right? I feel like there's one called a call-out culture, right? Where you look at cancel culture where it stemmed from, right? And it stemmed from, when people that's been marginalized, people that have been, you look at like probably even go back to, Black people with Rosa Parks, the boycott. You think of boycotting, right? So we boycott, we avoid a certain brand, and it's to make a statement. And then I look at call out and to put people in check. Calling out, bring attention to the wrong stuff that somebody did. So it gives them an opportunity to learn from it, right? Because we want people to learn and open it up for conversation. So I get that. I get that point, right? Because I feel like shaming someone, it doesn't, I feel like now you making that person hide and go away. They're not going to be able to come to light and actually learn a lesson out of it. But the problem is with cancel culture, though, is now you try and make that person withdraw from society. To the point where some of these people are entertainers and public figures, they get canceled. I mean, for example, Louis C.K. Funny ass comedian. I love Louis C.K. But you know, I may get canceled if I bring up his name and say I love him in certain circles. But Louis C.K. disappeared for a long time, right? We don't know if he learned his lesson from what he did or not, but he had to disappear, right? And it's almost to the point where, like, you look at some of these entertainers and these people, it's like, do we really want them to disappear? Some people, it's like, yeah, we want them to feel, you know, we want to use that power. We need to, you know, they need to feel some type of emotion and shame about it. Yeah. But I think more importantly, we need to like understand, like, okay, how could we attach a lesson to that? Because making somebody feel ashamed, like, yeah, okay, well, it making us, like, it making a group feel better, but it's like, is it really productive? You know, so it's almost like, is cancel culture productive, or is it just a self-serving way by like groups and societies? Is it self-serving in some type of way? You know, like if your group of friends, and that's what I was talking to Chris about. I was like, dude, imagine if we had, like, if we were using social media like how people are using it now, back when we were growing up in like freaking middle school. You know, like, it would be insane. Just the kind of stuff we used to do already without it, to have it. I mean, like, you know, things are just being magnified. But yeah, man, Chris, like, what's your thoughts, bro? Like,
So
yeah,
I think there should be a clear line drawn between people like Harvey Weinstein, who have committed a crime, R. Kelly, allegedly, Michael Jackson, allegedly, Bill Cosby. People, I think that's one group, right? And then you have another group.
Kelly was on tape though, so I don't know.
I don't know if you could say allegedly.
I'm sorry.
He was convicted, right? You know what I mean?
Let me be clear. R. Kelly is guilty. He should be canceled. All right. And then on the other side, the other side of the line, you have people who are being canceled for statements that they've made. Whether those statements are homophobic in nature, racist in nature, you know, and a whole litany of other things. And on that side, I think that's where it gets a little bit more cloudy, because you have, society has become so polarized and people have such strong opinions on things, which is, there's nothing wrong with that, right? But are we silencing free thought? And I don't know that I know the answer to that. And I think you have to take it on a case-by-case basis.
So you know what I like? What I like is what Cal said on distinguishing between cancel culture and call-out culture. And you expounded on that just now, Chris, right? For me, I was bucketing one and the same. But that distinction then allows a conversation to happen and say, okay, well, you know, in this particular scenario, you know, that's, you know, we got to call this person out, right? They committed a crime. We need to call them out. We need to rally around, you know, the victims and support them, versus the cancel culture, where if we ostracize them and we put them in the corner and say, you should never come out again, right? To your point, Cal, where's the lesson to be learned? How are they going to grow from their situation, right? You know, assuming, you know, in many of the cases where, you know, like you said, somebody said something ignorant, right? And I'll use ignorant intentionally, right? Where they either didn't know the broader impact of what their statements meant, or they didn't care, right? But let's just say they didn't know the broader statement of what that statement that they made meant. You know, I think now, certainly in this condition, in this day and age, I think it's society's, I wouldn't say obligation, but certainly we have an opportunity to, you know, educate them, right? Sure, it pisses me off when somebody does something ignorant, certainly in things that I am interested in or I identify with. And my hope is that they wouldn't do that again. If I can to assure that, we gotta have to have the conversation right? We got to render up the conversation to say, you know, how did you get to that point? Like one thing that that comes to mind to me in this conversation, in while as we're talking here, and don't join on me, guys, right? But my wife has me watching The Bachelor or Bachelorette, one of the two. I can't remember what it is.
I got contacted by The Bachelor.
Did you?
Yeah,
Man, yo, you should go on the show.
I don't know, man. I don't know if I'm ready for that. I mean, you know, and I tell you why, Ralph. To add to that is because it's like, I think with this whole cancel culture is just hurting creativity, right? Because it's like you might now you kind of like, oh, if I go on a Bachelor, right, and if I do something that they catch me doing something or saying something, I might lose my job. I might get canceled. They would probably be like, "Yo, Cal, I don't want to watch he's on his co-host podcast. Like, I don't know if I want to be, you know, watch his stuff." Or it's almost like you on eggshells. Like you feel like you have to be perfect.
Yo, the comments are saying, "Don't do it, Cal. Don't go on the show." But you're right, right? That's exactly it. Because you're saying that, you know, you got to be perfect, and no one is. But this past season, I guess, you know, and I'm going to summarize my understanding of the situation, right? So the Bachelor, it was a Bachelor, you know, found his fiance on the show, and it came out later that, you know, she took some pictures that were not culturally sensitive, right? That's probably the easiest way to clean it up, right? She took pictures that if you're in the South, then you know help me out, guys. The plantation, so our time plantations at home in the Caribbean was totally different. We didn't have this, so this is why I'm struggling, right? But the plantation, ladies on the plantation would wear a certain attire. She was caught in pictures in that attire, very similar to kind of blackface kind of scenario.
Yeah, show white, right?
Yeah, she was white. Yeah, she was white. And that's, thank you for the distinction, because the Bachelor was black, she was white. So then it really came up to the point where that came out, and he had to kind of, you know, and this was in 2020, right? So he had to kind of figure out how he was going to navigate this relationship with somebody who he loved, while knowing that she had to be called out on her wrongdoings. So what I liked about it in the after show, because I watched the after show too, guys, right? So in the after show,
you're guilty. I mean, you got away with just the show, but like now,
hey, you know, once you're committed to something, you got to go a little bit further, right? Right. So in the after show, you know, what I liked about what he said, right, as he was getting interviewed about the whole situation, what I liked about what he said is that, look, she has work that she has to do. I'm not going to joan on her, right? I'm not going to just totally shut her out of my life. They weren't together at the time of the cancel show, but I wasn't going to totally shut her out of my life for this situation. She has work to do. Depending on how that work, you know, progresses, you know, I am open to the, you know, possibilities of what future might hold, right? I thought that was really big of him, right? Because this is somebody who he learned to love and grow into, growing with. Something happened that resulted in a need for canceling, or calling out, rather. Thank you for the distinction, Cal. And then, you know, he said that there's work that needs to be done. Not, you know, he could have easily gone the flip side and said, that's right, horrible, she should have never, this would never happen, I can't deal with her, and, you know, really just dogged her out. But instead he said, no, I'm going to give her space to do her work, because she needs to learn.
So, you know, Ralph, real quick, because initially when I heard that, like, I just had an emotion that just went across me. It's like, wait a minute, like, what? Like, nah, like, you know, you don't even try to think to call out, you automatically think cancel. And it's like, we have our phones right next to us all the time. So instantly you could just hit the social media and just blast somebody. Right. And that just goes viral, and then boom. And once it's out there forever. You can't like take it back. I mean, so many people try to put stuff out and they get deleted. No, that's right. And that's online for the whole time. So I think it's like, it's kind of like that gap. But like, as I heard you explain it a little bit more, then I start having that gap where it's like, okay, well, yeah, maybe it's not cancel, just call her out, try and understand what happened, the decision behind that, and then use it as a learning opportunity. Use it as it's funny because in like management training, they say use it as a coaching opportunity. Right. So and then to Chris' point, it's almost like, well, how could you have because so many opinions out there, how could you like have the critical thinking skills instead of just following like a group? For example, because Kevin Hart says like, oh yeah, don't listen to this person, then everybody's like, well, Kevin Hart's my favorite comedian. He must know what he's talking about,
Who himself has been canceled, by the way. He got canceled from the Academy Awards because they pulled footage of him making homophobic comments like from 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Right.
And I was just reading up on an article that said he was okay with that. And here's where I do agree with him. He said, look, nobody's perfect. We're going to make mistakes. And you cannot try to, verbally abuse people in comments and on social media, knowing that you would never say those same things to that person face to face. Right. And I was like, yeah, that's true. That's true. Now,
and not only that, for Kevin's scenario, right? He apologized. It was an error, a time when it may not have been appropriate, but it was accepted. Right? Certainly growing up in the 80s and 90s, early 2000, again, not appropriate, but it was accepted at the time. Certainly now, what's not appropriate is also not accepted. This is a new time, right? But he apologized about the thing that happened 10 years ago. He apologized sometime before that, right? And what cancel culture was trying to do to him was call him out even more and make sure that he would never work again, a kind of scenario. He already apologized for it. But he wasn't, to your point, Chris, he wasn't going to be bullied, right? Because cancel culture, to your point earlier, Cal, can try to bully you and put you in that corner to be ostracized. He wasn't trying to be bullied by the cancel culture to kind of be put in that corner and never to be worked again. I apologized. I even explained, IB and Kevin, man, my bad. Different time. I've grown a lot from that, and we're all flawed, and we all are going to say, do things in the past that as we look back from the future, if we look back at it, we were like, man, why would I even have done that?
So, in y'all's estimation, is this just the cost of being a celebrity or a public figure? You have to be careful in your words, be wise in the words that you choose, or the consequences are you could get canceled. And I honestly think that some celebrities and some public figures just don't care. They're going to say what they're going to say regardless. And that almost fuels, because let's be frank, right? On one side, you have the people who are pushing for that person to be canceled. But in some cases, you have people on the other side that completely agree with them and will support those people's comments or their views. And I think some of the public figures feed off of that, and they feed off of that division as well. And we're seeing it a lot in politics right now, where people are saying outlandish things. I mean, things you wouldn't hear 10 years ago, things I would not put my kids in front of TV to watch. Let's put it that way. And these are our elected officials.
Right.
But I think part of the reason that they're doing it is because they know that they have a large following who will support them regardless of what they say. Blindly follow them.
That's a scary thought. And there's no other way I could put it, right? You know what I mean? I mean, you said it earlier that we're certainly in the United States. We're such a divided nation now, right? You have to choose a side, right? One side or the other, and when that and it's so bad that there isn't conversation happening in between, right? So therefore, bridges aren't being built. If anything, they're being burnt, right? I don't know. You know what? Let's call out our viewers, right? What are your thoughts on cancel culture? What do you think? What questions do you have? We would love to hear from you about the cancel culture and your perspective on it, right? So if you're there, go ahead in the comments and let us know what you're thinking about the cancel culture. There was a scenario here recently, and I'm kind of chopping it up, right? Because it came across my social media feed. You were talking about politicians, and what was the name? She said something. She's been in the news. She's on the Republican side. She's been really, like, to your point, Chris, saying maybe not this particular person, but certainly saying things outlandish. I wouldn't want my kids to be viewing, and they're public figures. But she said something recently she made a comment about the masks and trying to correlate masks to the Holocaust.
Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Yes, thank you, because it was escaping me, vacation mode. So I saw a clip of her apologize or recognizing that she made an error in her statements, because she recently visited the Holocaust Museum in the Washington, D.C. area, and recognized her statements were way out of line. Way out of line. No context, right? But to your point, trying to itch at her base, right, about the whole mask thing. Forgive me if you got to wear it to protect yourself or somebody else. To really itch at the base by saying something outlandish and get that notoriety, that viral video or whatever that they're doing these days, politicians and all. So when I saw that, one part of me, as we were thinking about this topic for tonight, one part of me was like, man, cancel culture, right? Just knock her out, get her out, Other part of me was like, when I saw the apology, I was like, okay, I don't necessarily like her politics. I don't exactly like how she goes about what she does, but she owned her mistake. And I should appreciate that, and if I so choose, accept it. But I wonder how many people are kind of open to that.
You know what, Ralph? You bring up a good point, right? Because it's like you were able to make the distinction that, well, you may not agree with her politics, right? But no, that don't mean you don't agree with her politics. Mean that you want to attack her or like go after her personally, right? And it's like with cancel culture, like people need to separate the two, right? Because somebody have a different idea or believe in something differently, that don't mean that you have to bully them to change their beliefs, because in most cases, it's not going to change their beliefs. You can just make them feel more like shit, right? And mentally, they're going to feel more at risk by dealing with that. And it's funny because it's almost to the point, like, how do the people that actually gang up on people that they want to bully, what's their mental, frame of mind right now? Because I don't think it's in a good sense. I don't think it's a good frame of mind. I think it's come from an emotional place where you just want to see someone suffer or go through some type of pain. And I think that's the cancel culture. Like, that's the kind of energy. Is wonder, like, what kind of energy you putting behind it? Are you putting the type of energy where you like calling somebody out to like teach them something, because that's one thing. Or you calling somebody out because you feel some type of pain yourself and you want to transfer that pain onto somebody else. So you figure like you're gonna bully somebody to try and be like, oh, okay, well, stop buying that stuff, stop doing this, stop doing that, because you want them to suffer so they could change. Like, well, newsflash, when people suffer, they look for other ways to change how they feel. Okay? Right? Drugs, alcohol, they don't just come and be like, okay, yeah, sorry guys, like, no, you know? And those are the effects that come out of stuff like that. Or they just disappear. They'll just be like, oop, I'll just leave the public eye. I'll just, you know? So it's like, when I think about, okay, how can I protect myself from the cancel culture, right? You know, one thing is like, okay, well, I'm gonna start thinking twice about what I post on social media, right? Some people that just post every little freaking thing that happened in their life, and that's fine, right? Because it was meant. It's social media. Is something is you sharing stuff, you know? Except sometimes people use it for like their own purpose or their own gain or their own reason. You know, they use it to gang up and, you know, yeah, find a way to cancel. So I don't know, right? But yeah, it's like, so I guess for the viewers and just for myself, is like, so how do you, so say, you know, you run a scenario where you do get canceled, because it can happen. We're out now. Where, you know, everyone's like, people are watching us. What happens when you do get canceled? How do you protect yourself mentally in a scenario like that?
You got a lot there, right?
Yeah.
First of all, I will not be canceled.
Oh man.
But yeah, I mean, you know, I think, you know, so I'm reacting to the mental part, right? The mental part, you know, says, you know, what's coming up for me is, you know, I need a disconnect, right? Anytime that I'm overwhelmed with you know, social media,
you did this too, Ralph. You did this too, beginning of the year. I remember.
Yeah, I
responded to my messages, but you
yeah, and I was still in the background, right?
Right,
but for overall, I had to disconnect so that I wasn't overwhelmed by the social media. And I think from a mental standpoint, we certainly, the younger generations, we talked about it in one of our earlier episodes, but we're not these technology, although they're an extension of our humanity to some extent, they don't control us, right? And we need to recall that. And by realizing that they don't control us, then we can disconnect from it and focus on our mental well-being. Yeah, I'll leave that there. You packed a lot in there, Cal, and I wanted to jump on a lot of pieces of it, but I'll leave it there.
Chris, how do you protect yourself from, you know, cancel culture, right? You get canceled. Like, how do you like maintain some type of sanity? How do you protect yourself mentally? You know.
So,
yeah.
To Ralph's initial point, right?
Mm-hmm.
The first step is not to get canceled.
Yeah.
Which, in a way, and it's kind of sad, means you have to walk on eggshells. And you know, you could say you have to walk on eggshells. You can also say you have to be careful and watch what you say.
I don't know how you control that. You know, I think it's almost to the point where you have to let people decide, right? Like, if you want to cancel me, go ahead. But, you know, I know who my audience is. I know who people are. I think you really have to like establish that base of people that you really connect with, you know, and then everything else outside is like, you know, it really doesn't matter, you know, whether they cancel you or not. I mean,
so okay, let's move forward with that theory and say you do get canceled, right?
Mm-hmm.
At that point, you have to decide whether or not you're going to issue an apology for the people that you offended. But going with that theory, if you truly believe what you say, then no apology is needed. I mean, you could say something to the effect of, I wasn't aware that this is the situation, or I wasn't aware that I offended people, but these are my beliefs. And I'm open to having a discussion or a dialogue with someone who doesn't agree with my statement to learn. And I think that's the best you can do.
So
as long as you're open to a discussion and not closed-minded about the statement, especially if you offended people,
right.
I don't think there's any issues.
So I would apologize I would make clear my intention, right? Because my intention isn't to hurt anyone, right? My intention isn't to hurt anyone. And yeah, I would apologize if somebody feels a certain way from something that I said, but I gonna make it clear up front is that, well, hey, this was not my intention, and I think a smart person or a reasonable person would then use that as an opportunity to like let me know where I went wrong, and then we could move forward. But then you have that group that is like, yo, I ain't even trying hater. You already said cancel, we're done, next. And I don't know if I really have the time or the energy to really entertain or deal with that kind of stuff. That's why, like, me personally, is I'm more focused on, hey, this is the intention. I know my intention isn't to throw out some type of bad energy to make somebody feel like shit, because it does nothing for me. It does nothing. It's not productive for everyone, So I feel like, yeah.
So I wonder if we can. So we have some questions in the comments, right? And this question kind of resonates for me, certainly. And of course you, Chris, and of course you, Uncle Cal, right? One of the questions comes up from one of our loyal viewers. She asks, what if your kids watch a certain kids movie, Disney movie, Nickelodeon channel, and that particular actor or actress is a two-part. That particular actor or actress, says something, does something, that the cancel culture starts to go after them. How and your kid is a little bit older. They kind of get aware of what they said. As a parent, as an uncle, how do you kind of navigate the waters around, separating the actor in their favorite whatever show, and the person who did, however, good, not so bad, or horrible event or incident or said something that caused them to be canceled?
Dude, I heard they were trying to cancel Winnie the Pooh, bro. Winnie the Pooh.
They were trying to cancel Winnie the Pooh for what?
Because he don't wear pants. Because he don't wear pants.
He's a bear. How is he supposed to wear pants?
Bro, I'm telling you, how this whole thing going. That's when I thought of that comment. I'm thinking like cartoons. Like that's the next.
Mickey doesn't wear a shirt.
Right.
You just be walking around.
Don't give them any ideas, Ralph.
Chris,
so, I think it depends on the severity of the action, and are my kids aware that something wrong was said or something wrong was done? So I don't know, to keep it in context, is it something that happened while they were watching the show, or did this actor or actress do something outside of the show that social media has, taken a hold of, and started to try to cancel this person, but the kids aren't aware? I'm trying to think of a good example of something where I would sit my kids down, have a talk with them about what happened, explain that, what this person did was wrong. And I would honestly ask them for their opinion. They're at the age now where they're able to form their own thoughts and opinions. What do you think about this? What do you think about what this person said? And then if necessary, I will tell them, hey, you can't watch this show anymore, and here's why. Because in this household, here are the things that we hold true to. Here are the things that we don't accept, the things that we don't tolerate. And this person, although they may have apologized, there are some things in my mind that you can't apologize for.
And I think that's a good point, right? My wife says it all the time, right? You know, sorry doesn't fix what you already said or did. You know what I mean? It's already out there, right? I appreciate your apology, and it doesn't fix it, right? The only thing that fixes it is action, right? And not even fix it. Fix it. The only thing that can make it better, right? Because you are, again, the thing is already out there. You can't fix what was already said or done. The only thing that you can do now is try to make amends with, you know, the thing that by doing something of value moving forward.
And let's be real, right? A lot of these apologies are crafted by PR teams,
right?
Because they're about to hurt that public figure's pockets.
Right.
You know, they're going to get kicked off the network, or their show's going to get canceled, or, you know, they're going to feel some type of effect. So they spin up an apology real quick. Do they really mean it? I don't know.
Right. Do they really mean it? Or does it just make everyone feel, does it make the person feel better because you have a sense of control? Like, oh yeah, now I got them to apologize. Right. Is that really productive? I don't know. But it's almost, you know, if I understand the question too, is that the person, that actor, they may have done something wrong outside of what they did in their job, which would be like a negative thing to them, because it's like, okay, well, they did this outside of their job. Should I still have my kids watch them based off something what they did outside their job? Well, you have to realize, like, these people, they're acting. They're not who they are in the show in real life. And it's funny because we live in such an entertainment culture where we think one is the same, but it's two different things. It's like, is an entertainer, what that person, you know, your favorite person you may see on television, you don't know what they do that people don't know about.
Off camera, right?
Off camera, you catch? So it's like, yeah.
And I don't mean to interrupt. Right?
No.
I got excited because it popped. What you just said popped in my mind. And you guys are gonna have to help me with this one because it's not clear, right? But remember, I think it was before cancel culture became a thing, at least in my mind. It was a NBA owner, and he was in his home. He was entertaining some women, and one of the young ladies recorded him saying some derogatory stuff about Black people, right? I think he used the N-word.
Yeah. As the owner for the Clippers.
Donald Sterling.
Yeah.
Right. Sterling, exactly. Right. And I know amongst my friends that sparked a huge debate, right? Of course he shouldn't have said it. And he was in the privacy of his own home. How do you make the separation? He shouldn't have said it, but he was in the privacy of his own home. Couldn't he have free speech within his own home? Now, who's doing the censoring? Right? All of that was a very complicated issue from this point of censorship, which you kind of brought up a little bit earlier. And again, at that time, what I recall was people trying to cancel him. They were trying to, sell off his team. If I remember, like Didi was trying to go ahead and buy it, or trying to partner with some folks to go ahead and buy it. But
it did sell, by the way, just so you know.
Sell?
He no longer owns it.
Yeah, he no longer owns
it. And
Steve
it is
Ballmer.
because of that.
Mm-hmm.
That scenario. Yeah. See, look at how it moved, right?
Yeah, Steve Ballmer
but to that point, and I'm playing angel's advocate here, right? Did we go too far? Right? He was in the privacy of his own home.
In my opinion, we didn't go far enough, because I'm putting myself in the shoes of one of those players that has to play for him. And, I'm not the type, I'm not going to go mention him on social media and say, oh, we need to cancel this guy. That's just my personal opinion. If you are, and they're trying to get rid of this term, owning players who you dislike because of the color of their skin, you should no longer own that team, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I subscribe to it, without a shadow of a doubt. But Angel's Advocate, playing Angel's Advocate here, I wonder, if I can't say what
I see where you're coming at, Rob.
I understand. I totally understand.
Yeah, the way you're coming at it is like, this ain't something that he said publicly to let everybody know. This is something that he said in the private of his home. And I think what that shows us, I think, is more of an example that had to be made, and a stance somebody had to take a stance on that to show the other owners that, look, you can't get away with this type of behavior or mindset. We don't want this type of person with this type of behavior to be part of this league. I think that was a decision from the NBA. It's like, well, we just don't want that kind of, we don't want those kind of people to own a team. And it came to light, which I'm glad it did. But yeah, I could see where you're coming from with that. Let's hope you don't get canceled for that.
Hey, look, I'm playing Angel's Advocate here to kind of stem up the conversation, right?
That's a fair.
But we see the thing is, Rob, like, we have to, like, in order for us to move forward, we have to take risk in actually, like, dissecting some of these things. And people are afraid to take risks like this in certain conversations. Catch what I'm saying? Like, we're doing it live, but people even scared to take risks like this with their friends because they're afraid of what they may think and who they may tell.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm laughing at the comments here. I guess Paula Deen got canceled at some point. I know Martha Stewart got canceled, and now she's on a show with Snoop Dogg. She has a cooking show with them, which I'm curious to get y'all's thoughts, and I know we're coming up on time here, but last example. Do you all remember Jussie Smollett?
Yeah.
The gentleman, and I don't know all the facts, so excuse me if I'm misstating them, but I believe he faked his own assault.
Yep.
And was canceled off of that show. Mm-hmm. I'm curious to get y'all's thoughts on that, if you thought that was warranted or if it was just a big push from social media that caused the producers and everything.
He faked his own assault, right? And trying to get more attention towards the LGBTQ community, mm-hmm. right? And what was happening at the time in that time and space. That's just wrong, man. That's a crime.
I think it was a cry. It was a cry for help. Like you said, attention. He's looking for attention. It's a cry for help, man. He was looking for attention. He felt he was doing really well on the show, and he wasn't getting the type of he wasn't getting paid like he was supposed to get. I don't know too much about the story, but I think a lot of people they felt hurt that they backed him and backed this story, and then they look like idiots at the end of it. So it's like, well, nah, dude, you can't make me look like that. Like, yeah, like I gotta make you feel like shit too. So, and then people ganged up on him. Does that teach him a lesson? Nah, it doesn't. At least I don't think so.
I mean, did he need help? Certainly. From our outside looking in perspective, did he get the help that he needed through the cancel culture? Likely not. What he do was wrong? Absolutely.
Yes.
Like, you know what I mean? You try to fake this scenario so that you could get whatever attention for whatever reason, but it was a faked scenario, and it's not even like, you know, somebody stole my wallet kind of thing. You got beat up, right? You pay somebody to beat you up so that you can, you know, and get the news and attention and all of that stuff completely taken away from. It's like the, you know, the boy who cried wolf. So now the other people who said an event like this happened to me, now people are questioning, did it really happen or not? And if it really did, now that takes away from the real victims.
100%. So we are at the top of the hour, gents. I don't know if y'all have any closing statements. I'm going to keep mine real simple. And I noticed it as soon as you hopped on, because we were pleasantly surprised by you joining us tonight, Ralph. And I believe your shirt says unity, if I'm not mistaken.
It does.
And at the end of the day, cancel culture, no cancel culture, I believe that's what it's all about, is unity. You know, being able to have conversations like this on whether it's right or it's wrong, getting the people who have been canceled the help that they actually need, given the scenarios, and then moving forward as one. There's so much division right now, particularly in the United States. And unfortunately, I think the media perpetuates a lot of that. That's a conversation and topic for a whole nother time. But can we all just get along?
Ain't it? Cal?
Yeah. I mean, you know, it's a difference between, like, you have identity and you have the roles that we play, right? And we tend to mix the two, right? Say I have when we do this, when we do the heat check, maybe today I have a 10, you know, I feel like a 10 at business, a 10 mentally, a 5 with family. Family roles you play. You could be a brother, you could be a father, you could be a sister. And then at work, you know, you could be whatever you want to be at work. These are different roles that you play. So we got to start looking at, like, how we could separate the roles from your true identity, right? Your identity is who you are, what you bring to the table. You know, you may not be stellar at certain things, and people may not be stellar at certain things all the time. But if you take that gap to actually try and separate from what people have done to who they are as a person, you'll realize, hey, how about we call people out? You don't have to cancel them, because you don't want people to. I mean, I'm just thinking on that level, you really don't want people to go away, right? I mean, some people are just like, yeah. I want a guy to just disappear and go away. But does it really help you? Does it really solve what that gap that you try and fill inside of you? You know? So take that gap, think twice before you actually go ahead and react to somebody online to cancel them. Spend less time online, you know, spend more time actually, like, having conversations with people instead of just hiding behind, like, a fake account.
Spend more time watching our show.
Yes, spend more time watching our show for sure.
Yeah.
You know, I would say for me it would be, you know, accountability, right? I think, you know, we need to own, you know, what we say and do. And that also means we or the cancel culture needs to view that it's okay for someone to own their accountability and grow from that, whatever happened, that scenario, right? When, you know, to your point earlier in the show, Cal, if you haven't heard it, you need to rewind to go back to the beginning, right? If to the point earlier in the show is, you know, if we don't allow them to grow, then they get stuck. Then they're just going to continue to do this very same thing that we're trying to cancel them for, right? Let's hold accountability and allow grace for growth. That's me.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll close it out. Thank all the viewers. Thank all the comments this evening. Thank you all for tuning in. Make sure to hit that like button, that subscribe button. You can follow us on Instagram at Breathe Easy Media. You can also check us out on Facebook. And we've got the podcast rolling as well. We'll see y'all next week.
Right.